Oh,
Who is hiding in my hide?
this is awesome. This is actually a really sick man cave.
How are you?
My husband has one, but it's a lot
It's
smaller.
not a man
It
cave
is
because
definitely
I'm
a man
not a
cave.
husband.
It's a man cave.
It's not. It's a
Yeah.
nightclub.
Yeah, but men need caves even if don't have wives.
No,
I think they
this
do.
is a nightclub. You don't hear it. Oh, I see you're with child.
I've been with child for 3 years. I've been pregnant for 3 years. I've had a baby in 2021. This is like my permanent state now. I'm basically an elephant.
You do know that science knows what causes this now.
Do they know? I actually have been trying to figure it out for the last 3 years because it feels like it's a medical condition.
So you're like having Irish twins?
Literally, I have a 2-year-old, a 1-year-old, and this one's due in November. I've been pregnant for 3 years. So I think it's gonna be weird when I'm not pregnant anymore. I'm gonna be like, I don't know what to do with myself.
What's that like when you're always pregnant?
Honestly,
It's gotta be rough.
it's not. I feel
Really?
like everyone has this like cultural understanding of pregnancy, and I think a lot of women play it up. Yeah.
Cultural. No, I feel like there's this alien gnawing on you from the inside.
Yeah, but it's not that big of a deal. I gotta be honest with you.
Really?
It's like, for some women, obviously you can look at them and you can tell which ones are having what looks like an allergic reaction, right? And they have a rough go with it, but some people just do pregnancy pretty easily, and I'm one of those people that just kind of like, it doesn't really change anything.
So you're just gonna keep going?
No, I wanted to do it all back to back because I didn't want to be, I don't know, when parents do the like, we had a kid and we waited 5 years for the next one, I'm like, who wants to like restart and take out all the bottles? And I just was like, if I'm getting pregnant, I'm just gonna have all of my kids back to back.
Right.
And then one,
First one?
poof, 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 poof. Yeah, I think it's genius.
So you do believe in birth control? You're not doing it
I actually don't believe in birth control.
No? You're just doing it the Catholic way, just like whatever
My
happens?
husband's so Catholic, like beyond. He's
But then you could
Catholic.
have 12 kids.
I know, it's dangerous.
Of course it is.
It's completely dangerous.
And stupid.
I'm on your side.
Well, what are you going to do? Trick them and take birth control?
You know, it's just, I don't know, Catholics, they have a lot of kids. This is just,
Yes.
I didn't
That
choose
was
this
a-
life.
That
This
was
life
a
chose
thing when I was a kid. Really?
Where did you grow up?
New Jersey.
Okay, yeah, you definitely saw some 14 kids
In the
Catholic.
60s?
Yeah, for sure.
Of course.
For sure. But they were happy.
But you don't want that to be you.
I do kind of. I kind of want a school bus. Yeah, yeah. Like my colleague Matt Walsh, she's got 6 kids. I feel I'm naturally competitive. Yeah, I know. It's really bad.
Well,
It's bad. I'm very, very competitive, so I feel like now I might just have 6 kids, just 7, just to beat them. It's really bad.
definitely bad for the planet.
I know.
Let's not get into that right away. I mean,
Kids are bad for the planet.
well, everything.
They're pretty eco-friendly, actually. Adults are bad for the planet.
Well, they're not eco-friendly in the sense that they're going to have kids, and you're just making more people who are using resources. People who argue about planet and Elon Musk. I don't understand his whole thing about like we should have more people. It's like there's room. Of course, there's room. It's not about room. It's about resources. We don't have the resources. We have the room. We just don't have. I read just the other day where what do they call the groundwater? We've already like sucked out all the groundwater that we can possibly use. There's just not enough rain falling for like all your kids. It's all about you, Candace.
Thank you. It's interesting because I've just kind of read this whole book debunking all of that, which I feel like in 2 years you're going to have a totally different perspective on all that. Because
Well-
I've seen your growth and where you were a few years ago to where you are now.
No.
And, Elon Musk, I think, is probably pretty educated about the planet,
Well,
resources. What do you think?
no,
No?
not necessarily. Not if you, not either are you. If you think that we can somehow keep putting people on the planet which has a finite amount of resources. Oh, look, there's my zucchini that I gave to. I was looking for that. Look at that thing.
Did you grow that?
I did, and I gave it to Vivek when he was here a couple of weeks
He didn't
ago.
take it.
He didn't take it.
Yeah.
Unless he took it and they put another one just like it in there. But I don't think that. Let me see that. Hand me that thing. I don't want to
Did you
forget
actually
it.
grow this?
Yes.
It's actually a really big zucchini.
I told them, I said, you were probably at the Iowa State Fair.
Yeah.
And this is probably the kind of thing that you
I grow vegetables, and I just want to tell you, because
Right.
maybe he doesn't grow them, that's a very respectable zucchini.
Would you like it?
I actually would. I actually love zucchini. So,
Maybe it'll remind you not to get pregnant
right,
again.
Vivek
Or now
Ramaswamy.
you're going to leave it there. It's going to
Yeah.
wind up staying there again.
No, it won't. I won't leave it. I actually
Okay,
love
great.
zucchini.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah, this is my favorite. I actually did cucumbers this year, and I got some pretty big cucumbers, but they're wretched to grow. just kind of grow out.
It's almost a shame to have to cut into that, but you do.
Yeah, you do.
You gotta.
Yeah.
But don't you not believe, like, in the moon landing? So I'm supposed to believe you about climate?
I think it's so funny how people take. Well, first off, I know what I'm talking about with the climate stuff, so I'm just going to go ahead and promote.
Well, you're not the only one.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you should probably realize, like, that there is. In the same way that there are narratives I think you're now more awake to. The climate hoax is one that funds trillions of dollars, and we are not running out of space. You could fit the entire world if you stacked it like New York City in Dallas. So
fit. I just said it's
you
not
said
about.
Fit, but the point is that the hurricanes are down. The whole idea that every time it rains, it's because something bad is happening is like it's okay.
What I will agree with you on is this: the environmentalists do often lie because they have this idea, this issue is so important, and by the way, it is so important, that it's okay if we shade the truth to get people on our side, and I don't agree with that. I'm always...
You lied every time.
Well, not every time.
What was your climate disaster growing up? Mine was global warming. They don't even say it anymore.
They don't say global warming anymore?
No, they don't. No, they say climate change. They went from global cooling...
Maybe not in your bubble, but in the world they do.
No, they don't. They went from global cooling to global warming.
They never were in global... No one was ever talking about... It was one... That's such a stupid talking point that you keep repeating. It's a zombie lie. It was one article in one magazine in one day, 1 week in Newsweek or something. Nobody was talking about global cooling. Yes, we understand that the planet is always changing. That's a different story.
No, there was a whole climate alarmism via the IPC for global cooling.
No, there wasn't.
Okay. There was.
But do you believe people landed on the moon?
Well, let's just back that up.
Because if you don't, then I think that's
no.
I think that really sets a standard for this discussion.
You are taking something that was a Twitter...
You can't answer it?
...joke. I'm going to answer your question,
okay.
But I'm just trying, because I think you should add context, because what you're doing now is you're jumping away from an actual meaningful discussion about climate change and the hoax that's surrounding it and making people fearful to have children. And you're like going, well, didn't you once tweet? When I said, literally, I said in the tweet, let's have some fun today. What is one conspiracy theory that almost got you and that you think like could possibly be real? And I said, the one that always gets me every time is the moon landing. How come we haven't gone back? So you're taking this one tweet where people then shared the things that they think that were not really serious or political on this long thread to now apply to a conversation about climate change.
Okay, but just to be clear, people did land on the moon.
I don't know.
Okay, there we go.
I don't know.
I do know.
I just want to know why we didn't go back.
We did go back.
Did we go back? What year?
To the moon?
Were people on the moon?
Okay.
I'm asking a serious question. When did we go? When did we go back to people walking on the moon? 69. Okay.
July 20th, 1969.
Yeah.
We went back like 10 more times.
Who went back? Who walked on the moon?
America. You know.
No, but like, what were the astronauts' names? Educate me. Why
Who the fuck remembers what the astronauts' names were?
It's a pretty big deal to walk on the moon.
The first guy, and then after that, yes.
Who else walked on it?
I don't remember the name. Like another dozen. Yeah.
Okay. Another dozen humans walked on the moon?
Yes, Americans, all Americans.
Okay, we don't remember.
We kept going back. Apollo 13 was the one they made the movie about. That was the one they aborted, but that was after we had landed. Apollo 11, I think, was...
I'm not talking about space missions. I'm talking about actual people walking on the moon.
Yes, landing on the moon and walking on it. First of all, it is an impressive scientific feat. It's not out of the realm of like, how could that possibly happen? It's only 250,000 miles away. They had figured out enough to be able to do it, even with these shitty computers that they had in 1969. Yes, it's risky, and we did lose people doing it. But we did do it. I mean, plainly. I mean, the idea that you could think that this was some sort of hoax, I'm sorry, but it colors everything else.
I'm just saying that, like, I'm just not, like, I feel like you're just trying to find this one. Like, I've never talked about this on my show. You're literally talking about one funny tweet thread.
It's relevant.
It's really not that relevant.
That you won't say,
no,
absolutely, people walked on the moon. It's relevant.
I feel that you are finding an angle here to try to talk about something that I've never talked about on my podcast. I've never talked to people on a debate stage.
But it's out there. I read
it. You probably had a producer dig up what you thought were the most absurd tweets. Like, there's no way it's out.
Candace,
like you're saying, it's out there. There's not even articles about this. It's so obscure that it's like literally. I mean, it said like, let's have some fun. what are some of the
Candace,
things that, what are some conspiracy theories that you read that you have questions about? And I was like, the moon landing.
First of all, I promise you, there is no production on this show.
Okay, well,
no,
it's a pretty niche thing. Of all the things I talk about and I'm known for, like there wasn't even an article written about this about me.
I wasn't planning to talk about it.
Yeah, so it's like, how did you get here?
Because
you saw it on Twitter?
I got here, somehow I knew it.
But how?
Because it's out there.
But it's
because
not. It's not even in my Wikipedia. Like it's so obscure. It's so niche that I'm just like curious.
I don't think that's the case because I think I read it in the Vanity Fair article about you.
No.
No.
Nope.
Well,
that's what I mean. It's not even relevant for like I've never ever had a single person sit down and ask me this question.
Well, then
so
I've
just
done
like
America a service because we find the baseline of your thinking. I'm sorry, but that is relevant. That you don't think men landed on the moon.
No, I just said I would like first off, what I specifically said was
you don't know.
I want to know why, and I think even Elon Musk said this in his timepiece.
Ask him about it.
Yeah,
Ask him about
the moon. He did address it in his timepiece.
I think he probably believes it happened.
But I'm just not interested in this topic like at all. So it's just like you just came in so fiery about something that I am not known for. That was like an obscure tweet of like it started with "Let's have some fun." And it was in a joking manner, and suddenly you're like, how could you not believe the moon landing? And I'm like, the energy is like a little...
My apologies. I don't want this to be adversarial.
No, it was just
surprising. If we hadn't got on to global warming, I wouldn't
that's something that I actually believe, so I'm okay to have this topic.
No, but I connected it to that because it was like, okay.
But I'm in the public sphere talking about that. I've had experts on my show talking about, like Gregory Weinstein talked about his book about the climate change hoax. I care deeply about that because of the implications and how the climate change hoax and the trillions of dollars that are basically disappearing for things like Paris Accord agreement. Like I'm very much on record in a sincere manner talking about that.
Not to beat a dead horse, but if you think the moon landing is a hoax, it colors my view of what you think of the global warming being a hoax. Okay. So let's get on.
But I never said the moon landing is a hoax.
Well, you said
I said name one conspiracy theory
I asked you point
almost got you. I said I don't know anything about. I don't know anything about. I can't even debate you. You're sitting here telling me that 12 men have gone to the moon since. I don't know anything about it, and so I keep a very. I think that if there's one thing that people say about me is I don't come into conversations about things that I don't know. So I'm not going to sit here and pretend to be an expert on the moon landing.
But you're such a brilliant person.
But on things that I actually know. So I'm willing to. I'm willing to because I don't care.
Would you read about it?
I literally don't. It says it's to me.
Would you read about it?
It's utterly inconsequential for the work that I do. Yeah, I would. That's why I said fun thread. Tell me this. Like we were like, tell me what's one conspiracy theory that you believe that we can look into. I mean, we really should pull the tweet because it's weird that you're making this so severe as if I was like on a talk show debating the moon landing. And so what I'm saying is I've never cared about this topic.
Because it's an undebatable topic.
I'm completely like, if you want
debatable.
to, I did.
You're making it debatable.
I don't think anyone watching this will think that I made this topic debatable. I think you've made this very debatable. All I told you was I sent a funny tweet, and it's a pretty obscure tweet that's never been ever discussed before today.
How's life in Nashville? Nashville's real, right?
Nashville is a real place, and I love Nashville. It's really great.
Yeah. It's interesting. I was just in Austin, Texas, and I feel like Austin and Nashville are the two places where the liberal diaspora, shall we call it, liberals who want to get away, and I certainly understand why. I live here in California. It is a ridiculous state that drives you insane. I totally get it. I'm too dug in here to make a change, and where else would I find Club Random? But I get it. I feel like those are the two places they go. They go to Austin and they go to Nashville.
Yeah.
Because you're not really out in the sticks. I mean, Austin's a pretty liberal town. And any city is blue, right? Okay. So you're out of like the fire, but you didn't go to the frying pan. Is that about right?
Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, for us, we were also between Texas and Tennessee, for sure. We were probably between Chattanooga and Dallas. And we decided on Nashville because I think a lot more opportunities were happening. There was a lot of LA people coming, starting studios. Daily Wire moved their studio from LA to Nashville, so it felt like the right place. And I think at that time, I was having kids, so you sort of naturally crave the suburbs when you have kids, obviously, like the whole
and also,
New York,
by the way,
DC.
If I was a parent, well, first of all, there'd be unholy hell if I was a parent because probably we're going to be on the same page on this shit. Some of the stuff that goes on in the schools is just so cray-cray, and I would not be able to keep my mouth shut about it. So I'm sure a state like Tennessee does not have laws that some of the blue states do, where like the parents are not allowed to be notified by the school. They're actually prohibited if the kid changes their gender. Like they say that would be outing the student to a parent.
Right.
Outing is a word we even use in connection with a parent. Shouldn't everything be out to the parent?
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm singing from your hymnal now.
Am I allowed to have an opinion on this, or
I know.
is my tweet
I'm just trying to
Okay,
make
just
up
making
for
sure.
my faux pas with the moon.
I just don't care. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I don't care about that at all. I literally nothing about it, and I wouldn't have ever picked a debate with somebody about something that I just don't care about. But this I care deeply about. And this is what I do a lot of, work in the space of talking to parents and understanding how we've become so removed from our own children systematically. And you're right that places like LA and New York have become these major hubs where the state has gone too far. And I do a lot of work on other stuff too that you would think is weird, and vaccine stuff for parents and kind of giving them a guide.
Oh no, I'm with you there.
Okay, I wasn't sure about that. And I produce an entire separate series talking about vaccines and sort of the increase. And
well, I don't think
when I was a kid,
I don't think vaccines are a hoax or anything, right? I just
not a hoax.
Okay.
But how, do your kids need from 1982?
Right. No, they don't.
6 to 75?
Right.
An explosion. People don't even know anything about the diseases. It's just these constant fear campaigns. And then on top of that, in states like LA, you can't opt out. So these are things that parents have to think about now, where you're literally raising your kids. Could you go to prison for saying that I don't want my child referred to as a different gender behind my back? Yes. Depending on where you live, they're trying to criminalize you being a parent. And then you add that to the medical complex, and maybe you say, I'm not afraid that my kid gets chickenpox. I got chickenpox. Get chickenpox parties. You can't do that in LA. You can't do it in LA. And if you're a doctor and you'd say, oh, this parent didn't want their child to get the chickenpox vaccine, you'll get your license taken away in a place like LA. And I don't think parents realize why that's so scary. Not necessarily, we can argue all day. You can call me anti-vax, I can call you pro-vax. But as parents, we should be able to make decisions for our children. I don't fear the chickenpox.
That's all yes, I would really not go over well in today's world if I was a parent. I would just be in fights, and it would just be ugly. And then my kids, my hat is off to anyone who's a parent today, because I honestly feel it has never been harder to be a parent, because you're not allowed to boss them around. What's the fucking point of having kids if you can't boss them around? And also, how could you possibly control a feral little monster like that if you couldn't boss them around?
I know.
It's insane that they treat them like they're just short people.
Like, adults. And that's weird too. I was actually talking with somebody that was here before you came in here about sort of the LA spell, because there's something weird about parents in this particular bubble, this particular part of LA, where they think that the children are adults. I don't understand. We don't want to tell our child no. I met a parent that said that. We don't believe in telling our child no. And I just said, okay, well, when he rapes someone who's 13, and he says, my mom never taught me the word no, there were no boundaries.
Right.
I mean, whose fault is that going to be? I mean, it's...
This country reminds me of like a medieval European country where a 5-year-old ascends to the throne and inherits it. And so all the courtiers have to pretend that whatever brain fart comes out of the mouth of this 5-year-old toddler, is something that we have to take seriously and treat as valid and debatable. That's what this country is.
That is very accurate. That was a very incredible analogy. Pockets of the country, though, I would say. Pockets, particularly here.
Right.
You don't see that stuff in Tennessee. Like, it is,
that's the
yes, ma'am, no, sir. You know what I mean? And they don't play around with that stuff. And that's what I love about this.
And that's why I completely understand why people move to places like Austin and Nashville.
Yeah.
And this is what they attacked me for so vigorously when I did my editorial about trans, which, I feel like, again, a great demarcation between what liberal is, old school liberal, and woke. Liberal believes trans is, of course, a real thing, and they should be protected and respected. Woke is like, before they can tie their shoe, we tell them they very likely might be in the wrong body.
I ran your segment on my podcast, actually, because it was brilliant.
Great.
Yeah, on Real Time, you did the segment talking about, okay, if this is a real thing,
why is it regional?
Geography.
Why is it regional?
Brilliant point.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah,
Why is it so
brilliant.
regional?
Yeah.
What is it? The water here in California?
It might
Because
be.
I've been to dinner parties, more than one, where there's 12 people and they're all talking about their trans kid. They're all. It's almost like that's the norm.
Yeah.
And that can't really be the norm. I mean, I get it that things happen in nature. You know, mix up at the factory, whatever you want to call it. Nature, you know, I know the religious people like to call it, you know, what do they say, intelligent design. It's not that intelligent in a lot of ways. I mean, in a lot of ways it is, but there's a lot of stuff about the human body and the way we're built and the way we, you know, like phlegm, I feel like, is very often unnecessary and only makes things worse. I wish I could talk to my own body and say, we don't need this phlegm.
Yeah.
You know, I know you're trying to help, but you know, you're not really helping because I don't think I think it's giving a place for the bacteria to nestle in.
Right. Well, actually, it's funny because I'm not going to complain, but
As I cough up a bunch of phlegm.
I was reading this.
I don't know what causes it. I can't figure out what makes
but
me cough.
There must be something objectively good about phlegm. And now I'm interested, and this is the kind of random things that I'll research on the internet, like what actually is the risk of phlegm. But there was a Real Housewife, and I will not name her because I got in trouble on YouTube for talking about it, even though she talked about it first and came out and said she's got 4 kids. Dad's a doctor, brilliant doctor, but Beverly Hills. So, you know,
right.
Here we go. There you go. So how brilliant can you really be? And especially now that doctors don't know the different sexes, and they've got like 2 non-binary children, 1 gay child, and 1 trans child.
Right. Say that slower.
2 non-binary children.
Non-binary, meaning?
They are not bound to any sex. I think.
How old are they?
All of these children are like 12, maybe 15 and under.
So non-binary, would that be the same as bisexual?
I'm not sure, and I don't want to get us into trouble because these definitions change and they're fluid, and the second you don't get the update to your
Children
phone,
are fluid too.
Yes, but also a trans child and like a gay child. And I'm like, this is a statistical impossibility, obviously. And they kind of came out and said, obviously, this is a statistical impossibility. Something's going on in your house, and I'm going to guess it's a lack of parenting, right? Because these are just things. I didn't graduate high school with a single effing non-binary child. So this is made up, right?
Right.
And you're telling me all of your children have this thing that didn't exist when I was in high school in 2007, but now all of your children are suffering from this thing, you know? And that's kind of, I think, the litmus test for me is like, okay, if this is a real thing, why did this just not exist at all when I was in school? And it's not like they're playing catch up. It's not like now suddenly kids are going back from my high school class and saying I'm trans. They're not. We had gay kids, a couple of lesbian kids, you know, and everyone else was, you know, that was it, you know. It's like now they've got so many options to choose from the infinite alphabet community.
You know what we have in common? Like, we both say things that make people on both sides mad. We say some things they like and some things they don't.
Yeah, it's logical.
But when we're in agreement about something, I think people feel the same about me in this way. Like, when they do agree, it's like, that person really, I mean, rubs my clit on that. The way they do that. They really, I just love you so much when you go off on something that deserves to be gone off on.
Yeah.
And I feel like people feel that about me.
They do.
Like when I go off on something and it deserves that ass kicking, and you do it. I mean, you're funny. You have I saw you doing the Eminem thing where you were like, you were making fun of all his moves.
I just don't know what happened.
I know, but it was really funny. I mean, the way you just like, and I like Eminem, but
I do too.
You made him look ridiculous.
Because
you
he's
did.
Ridiculous. He's now just ridiculous. I mean, you met Vivek Ramaswamy. It's like you're picking on like Vivek Ramaswamy. Eminem.
He is.
That's what I was mimicking him because
he was talking about Trump nuking the world.
Yeah, I was going back and just showing how the fall of Eminem. But the segment that I was doing was just about like he keeps doing this. We get it. You don't like Republicans, you don't like conservatives, but what Vivek did was so harmless. I mean, he was in front of like 6 kids rapping some Eminem lyrics, and Eminem lawyered up against him.
But I did advise Vivek when he was here
To stop rapping?
Yeah. It's not really, right? It's just not a good look.
It's, Vivek, he reminds me so much of that character from Mean Girls. He's like a true academic, high achieving, nice guy.
Which girl?
Have you ever seen Mean Girls?
Of course.
Mathletes.
Okay, right.
Mm-hmm. And then there's the Indian guy who raps on stage, and he's like, sucker, MCs ain't got nothing on me.
But he's cooler than
He's cool. No, the guy is cool. But he's
Right.
like, he's a high achieving mathlete who also likes hip hop. He's into
Right.
different things. And I loved having Vivek on my show. I thought he was super inspirational. I like that he kind of has been staying above the fray because I'm super fatigued with politics right now.
Well, he's a lot more on your page with some of these issues like global warming than I am. So,
yeah.
You know, I find
and
him
he's brilliant.
As I said to him, I find you very disarming and also alarming.
Yeah. Yeah.
But that's me, and I think some of it is performative. He will not admit that he wants to be the vice president, but of course Trump is going to be the nominee. So they're only running for vice president at this point. Would you not agree?
No. Obviously, Ron DeSantis is not running to be Trump's vice president, right? Absolutely not. Nikki Haley is not running.
He's 44. Why wouldn't he take that? Of course.
Oh no, he won't. No, he won't. They hate each other.
You
Nikki Haley's not running to be vice president.
Do you think that Lyndon Johnson and John F. Kennedy didn't hate each other? You think hating someone is disqualifies you to serving with them as vice president?
No, I could see Tim
It's practically a qualification.
I could see Tim Scott doing the VP thing, but I think they're all after something else. Because you can also run to get your name out because you want to run again in 4 years. You're just kind of testing the water. Vivek's young enough that the VP office doesn't seem for me to be his goal. I could be wrong.
But if I could go back just to the VP thing, only because I've watched a little more history because you're so young.
So young. I wasn't even alive for them to remind me.
So, the what? What happened? I doubt it.
Child.
But usually, I'm telling you, the vice president and the president hate each other because they just ran against each other.
Yeah.
And the guy picks as the vice president very often the person who is kind of the runner-up, who wants to bring in that coalition, and also the guy who sort of fits the thing that he doesn't do. George Bush picked Dan Quayle because I'm old and experienced, and this little boy, they used to have him on Saturday Night Live as a child.
Yeah,
it was funny.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
So I think they all. You don't think Nikki Haley?
No, I think she's going for she's running to secure wealth. She started her career
to do what?
Well, she was millions of dollars into debt, right? And now she's got money pouring into her coffers. I think they all have incentives, and I'm not saying any of them are pure, but I think they're different incentives. I think Nikki is motivated by money, and I think that she, like Vivek said on stage, is actually looking for a deal with Raytheon or something.
This is how much they all want it now. I noticed many of them purposely, I'm sure they know better, mispronounced Vivek's name.
They did.
Just to get the idea. This person, foreigner, funny name. Vivek, is it?
Vivek.
Vivek. What is your... But when Nikki Haley did it, fellow Indian American, I was like, oh, Nikki, not you
I
too.
know.
You don't know how to say his name?
I know.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know. How did you think she did?
As good as she could, as good as you could do in that format. I thought look, it's going to be Trump and whoever he wants.
Pence obviously isn't running to be vice president, right?
Right.
See, they all have different reasons that they're running.
No, he might be deluded enough to think that Jesus will decide it should be him, and that's really what he thinks makes the difference in the world is what Jesus decides. I mean, I remember having a discussion with the old dorm room bullshit session with my sophomore roommate, and we talked about, I forget what the issue was, for 2 hours, and finally he just said, well, because I think Jesus Christ will come down and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, why did I waste 2 hours if that's what you really think about how this issue is going to get resolved? Jesus Christ is going to come down and do this and ABC. And I think that's Mike Pence.
You think Mike Pence is running because you think Christ ordained?
I think he's running because he thinks it's in God's hands, and he's a very good friend of God, and it doesn't look good right now, but Jesus can perform miracles because we know that because of bread and loaves and stuff.
I take it you're a devout atheist.
Devout.
Okay, gotcha. I think probably Pence is running because he doesn't know what to do next. He ran a state, became the vice president. What's the next natural progression? It's maybe he can be president. And also because he he wants to separate his brand from Trump, which I think he feels got murkied, and there's some genuine bad blood there. So
there's definitely
bad
some bad blood.
Yeah,
there.
but I don't think any of them are running to be Trump's VP because they all trashed him on the stage. Vivek is the only one that Trump would consider.
Trashed him.
Trump.
They kissed his ass.
Trump?
Yeah. The only one who trashed him was Chris Christie.
Chris Christie trashed him. DeSantis said nothing. To be fair, DeSantis didn't say anything the whole night.
They all raised their hand when they said if
DeSantis did the.
Well, okay, but they raised their hand, except for Christie, when they said, would you support him as the nominee? I mean, that's pretty amazing for a guy who's, probably going to be convicted for what he should be convicted for, and I'm sure we agree on this, Candace.
Definitely sure we agree on this.
About, trying to overthrow the government of the United States.
You're just not, you're not a weak enough person to really, I don't buy this. I think you dance this way because you think you have to placate.
Okay, first of all,
no chance.
just
you
to
think
educate
that we
you.
almost lost America on January 6th. I just don't buy that you're that soft.
Yeah, I do. And just to educate you a little on this, I was saying this for 5 years when everyone was laughing at me for saying this, that Trump would never concede the election and he would never go away. I was all alone on a raft.
But I mean, you saw BLM riots, right?
Yeah.
The summer leading up to this, right? Where I lived in DC at this time, where you couldn't go outside, cars were flipped, things were burned, people were boarding up their windows. Yeah. But you thought the end of democracy, you can say this meaningfully in your face, happened when people above the age of 65 stormed the Capitol. You thought that was the worst thing you've ever seen in American politics.
Well, I mean, what was the worst thing? That was a small part of a bigger picture. The worst thing was that finally we had a president, after all this history that we've had, nobody ever did this, not Al Gore and not Nixon, who probably didn't actually lose their elections. They allowed this peaceful transfer of power to happen. We finally had a guy who decided, of course, because he's insane, decided that no matter what happened, I won this election. There's only two things that could possibly happen. I win the election, or if I don't win the election, there must have been some cheating. It was looked at by his own people around him, including the Homeland Security Department, including the Director of National Intelligence, including every court, federal and state, including his own lawyers, his daughter, Bill Barr. Everybody told him, you lost this election. They looked at this over and over again. Even the Republican vote counters, like the one he called who said, find me 11,000 more votes. Even those people told him. So plainly, he did not accept losing the election, and then he tried to put in a bunch. This is why he's on trial.
I'm just asking
it's not for
if
lying.
You believe that day, as the media presenter, we're talking about media hoaxes.
I give you my answer. It's not just that day, although that was part of the scheme. I mean, it's not like coincidence that they showed up on the very day that they were certifying the vote at the very place they were doing it to stop that from happening.
And
That's not a
did you
coincidence.
have any questions about why the FBI hasn't been able to find, since we've started with media hoaxes, do you think it's strange that they haven't been able to find who dropped off the pipe bombs the night before? I think that's the strangest piece.
What pipe bombs? Oh, this is some red herring bullshit.
No, it's not. No, not red herring. This is in the news. You can watch the CNN, MSNBC. Remember the night before on January 5th, there were pipe bombs that were set outside of the RNC and the DNC headquarters, right? And this was a part of the whole thing, that bombs were about to go off, but they were able to, get the bombs out. This is why, AOC said she had to fly for all this stuff. So I'm asking you, do you have more pressing questions about why they have not been able to find the person that dropped off those pipes?
I will have to look into that the way you'll have to look into the moon thing.
Okay.
Because
I think that's a very big piece for a lot of people of just understanding what actually happened on that day.
As I said before, I don't trust the media on anything because they never give you the full story. So I will allow that there could be this element to the story that is part of the story. I don't think it will probably change my mind that Donald Trump would not concede an election, kept saying it was a fake and that he had all these reasons to believe that people had voted, like 10,000. He said to the Raffensperger on the call, Raffensperger actually corrected him and said, you claimed that there was 10,000 dead people who voted in Georgia. We looked and we looked and we looked. It was 2. That sums it all up. There was actually 2. Now, he's not on trial for lying. You're apparently allowed to lie to the American people about elections, even though nobody ever really did that before. But okay, he's on trial for breaking specific laws. Forgery.
Well, I mean,
forgery.
For Stacey Abrams, he tested her election and said that it was.
Well, that's.
So let's be.
Yes, that would. Okay, you're right. I concede.
Okay. Hillary Clinton took a very long time. I don't think she's
Hillary Clinton was there before the night was over in her purple suit conceding the
She
election.
didn't. She slept in. You're wrong.
No, I'm not
You're
wrong.
wrong. John Podesta came to the podium and said,
It
well...
was before dawn of the next day.
Okay, my point is that saying that there was...
You
that
lost
there were,
your point.
No, I didn't lose my point. My point is that
Well,
you're saying
about
that...
Hillary, you were. Hillary conceded as soon as it was obvious that she lost.
The thing that I'm trying to get you to say, though, we know that you hate Trump. That has been abundantly obvious.
Yes,
I
we
actually
do.
think that Trump out of office...
For good reason.
Was a good thing for your show because it allowed you to...
It's not about my show, Candace.
No.
That's insulting.
No.
That's insulting.
I'm saying because people that weren't
just...
watching your show, that you didn't really finish. You can't insult my sentence I didn't finish.
No, but you keep
I was going to
implying
say that
I'm...
people that did not watch your show because there was so much dedication to talking about Trump during those years, then were switched onto your show because you moved on and you started talking about other topics that were crucial and I think brought in more of a conservative base.
Can we
That's
just...
not insulting
can we
to say.
just... Yeah, it is. Can we just have this professional courtesy that I concede and I believe you believe everything you say.
Yeah.
Give me the same courtesy.
I said I believe you hate Trump. And
you're saying I'm doing things for ratings or to bring in a different
I
audience.
Bring up
I
ratings.
never do anything.
I actually believe that literally amongst my audiences, more conservatives started watching me post-Trump.
Yes.
Myself included.
But that's a big...
That's not bad.
But that's not...
I'm sorry I said you got a bigger audience now. Like, oh my gosh, are you going to call yourself to see more people like me?
No. You ascribed a reason to it that's not true. I do have a bigger conservative audience and a less woke audience, probably. More people who are common sense centrist. Good. Fine. I didn't do it for that reason.
I never said you did it for that reason. I said I did not imply that.
Okay, fine.
I didn't. I genuinely meant what I said.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just say what I really
when Trump
think.
got out of office, you started focusing on different topics other than Trump. People were able to see that.
Well, he wasn't president anymore, of course.
I'm not faulting you. I'm just making a comment that I think that your audience base has gotten a lot bigger since Trump left office. Some people might even take that as a compliment.
Different.
Crazy, but some people might take this as a compliment.
Thank you. Well, for that part, yeah.
Yeah, because you're talking about, like we just talked about, like, trans kids and bringing up geography and things. And I think that while Trump was in office, and this is not just your show, that it was even my show, I think everything was about Trump. Everything was about Trump. I
agree.
Right? And it wasn't. It's never been that way for any other president. And not everything was about Obama.
Other presidents weren't enough like that.
We have definitely. I think I believe that and we can disagree on this. I think that from the second he announced that he was coming down, there was a media obsession with taking him down, like I've never seen. It actually woke me up. I was on the liberal side, and it turned me into a conservative. It was vicious. It was nasty. It was calling him things that he wasn't.
There was, but
you didn't participate in that. But pretending that Trump was like avowed racist that was trying to bring back the Klansman was a little bit like dramatic,
But that happens with every president and everybody who gets that high up in the tree. When I don't know how far back it goes, probably to George Washington, when a person is the one who's going to be in power, the people who want to prevent that, who think oppositely of how he thinks or she thinks, yes, that's what they do. They try to destroy. They didn't try to destroy Obama.
Not in the way that they come on Trump. You had the Lisa Bloom period where you had
Candace.
85 million women that came out of the woodwork with allegations. And where were you guys? He's been in the public sphere for the last 30 years. He's had shows. Where were you guys with your allegations before he announced running president? I mean, it was so obviously a ratchet job. And these things matter to you because it doesn't matter.
One of them's on tape.
It doesn't matter.
One of them's right from the horse's mouth saying, I grabbed pussy.
He didn't say I grabbed pussy.
He did!
He said he was talking about groupies. He said they will literally let you do anything, including grab them by the
He wasn't talking about groupies.
Yeah, he was.
He never said that word. He said when you're a star.
Yes.
That's quite a leap to say we're just talking about groupies. And by the way,
he didn't say I grabbed this woman by the P word. And I think that's part of when I say there's so many media hoaxes. Just be honest.
He said you can grab him by the pussy. He said you can grab him by the pussy.
Yeah.
And you can do anything. You can grab them by the pussy. Yeah,
these girls, when they see a star. That's literally, by the way, just to be clear, that's a fact.
But just to be clear, you shouldn't do that.
But you shouldn't, yes. But let's just be honest about what he said. This is locker room talk. Men talking about, I hang out with a lot of athletes, about women that throw themselves on them simply because of who they are. And they'll let you do anything to them. But we do live in this
just to put
economy of women who will quite literally let men, especially now with the birth of OnlyFans and TikTok and the rise of becoming a star, that if you are a star, they will let you do whatever they want. And then the media pretended he said, I personally went in and grabbed a woman by the P word. It's locker room talk. Is it crass? Yes. Do women also speak crass when men aren't looking? Yes. I'm very much, I'm not saying this is great speech, and I would love to hear if my husband was saying this about, but I'm just trying to be rational and not be like Me Too crazy and acknowledge that both men and women have locker room talk.
I have an important question. Where can I find these women?
I'm sure you've had your fair share, Phil, in Los Angeles, where everyone's trying to be a star or be in the industry or sleep with a star, of women that have thrown themselves on you.
I live strictly for America and what I can do.
And Jesus Christ, right?
Well, not Jesus Christ, but I live strictly to educate, to edutain America. That's where all my energy goes. I wish I had time for some of these diversions.
So not true. You know exactly that what he was saying was true. And that was something that I also hated too, because I'm very against the Me Too movement. I'm very against all of this like rabid feminism. I don't like the idea of, I actually think it does really bad for relations between men and women to pretend like some things are not abundantly true, that we don't have a culture of groupies and hoes and goths and music videos. And
yes, we do.
And it's fine. And not every woman is like this. And I wouldn't love to hear my husband say it, but I also would be like,
right.
Girl, is that what you're doing to them?
Right. It's funny that we can admit about men that they're dogs, because most of them are.
But we can't admit that girls are sluts.
But we can.
That feels not fair.
Well, I feel fewer women are sluts than males are dogs. Almost.
And I just learned that you are not on OnlyFans, which is lovely.
That I'm what?
That you're clearly not on OnlyFans. Where they're literally selling their bodies for a certain price.
Oh God, no.
Yeah. Now there's AI OnlyFans. They're not even real people, and men are giving all their money to it, and it's getting pretty crazy.
I mean, I know that we're always concentrating in this country on how we can help women, and we certainly should. But the truth is, the people who are lost, I mean, they're both lost. Everyone's lost.
Yeah.
But the people who are really lost and don't have their shit together are men. I mean, women are killing it in college. They're doing better, you know, in the workplace.
Lower suicide rates.
Yes, they're more to get.
More college graduates.
And I think this is perfectly emblematic of why men are just lost. I mean, if you can't even be a sleazebag, right? You know, you can't even fucking. I mean, we've given up on like having a healthy relationship, or even the kind of life I've lived, where like I've had healthy relationships but never got married. Okay, I'm not a crazy person, and I'm not an unfeeling person, and everything is very real. We've given up on all that, and now we're just like to degrees of how you're going to like be a John, and you pick. I don't even actually get laid. That's sad on
it is sad.
So many levels.
Men are struggling. They really are struggling, and I think it's.
Where did this come from? What's your theory?
I think pornography is really harming men, and it's everywhere, and it's so available, and it's at your fingertips.
Could not agree more.
And when they're introduced too young, it completely establishes their brain pathways in a way that ruins them for life. You know what I mean? It's not. You shouldn't be introduced to that sort of. And I don't even want to call it pornography because it's something else now.
I didn't like see porn on my computer until really maybe 5 years ago, because I was kind of afraid. I heard about cookies and like actually knowing what I'm looking at.
It's the
and
FBI
then of course
watching
the first time I saw Pornhub, I was hooked. But like magazines was like always the way it was, and I saw them. There was a big controversy in the 70s when Hugh Hefner had to decide whether he wanted to show pubic hair. They had no pubic hair. You did not see and this is when they had pubic hair.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, he had to decide between that and the American car companies' accounts, which was big, because advertising was a big part of where you made your money in magazines. And Ford and General Motors were not going to advertise in a place that showed pubic hair.
Right.
And then I'm sure they did, probably in the ad.
Probably.
Okay,
yeah.
So then I remember Penthouse comes along. I mean, it was basically stills from porn movies.
What decade?
This is probably around 2000, I think, or maybe the 90s, you could see that. I mean, yeah, I think in the 90s, absolutely. There were lots of magazines, Gent and Cherie and We, not that I knew all of them, Shaved Asian, okay, I knew all of them. But like, I remember you passing the magazine stands in New York when I lived and there was 90s, and there was like dozens of these kind of magazines for very specific kinks. So it was moving toward that direction. And then we come to where every kid has a little computer in their hands, and there's no more plots. I mean, there's no more. I mean, I remember the old porn movie where it was like a Broadway play, except instead of breaking into song, they'd break into fuck every 15 minutes. But you'd have to kind of wade through the pizza delivery guy, and okay, then finally they get to it. Now it's just right to it, and it is. You're so right. I'm telling you, as someone who's seen the whole arc of it, it's rapey in a way it never was. It's ugly. It's just ugly. It doesn't turn me on.
Yeah, it's deviant.
It's
and this is people are then
choking
think about how
and-
it's impacting people and their productive relationships and how they think, sex is supposed to be had or attained. So we've come a very long way. And now we're talking about the introduction of pornography as a topic in the school system, which is now a thing, right? Like normalizing pornography. I learned actively in school that you should watch porn, it's super healthy. Well, now this is maybe right before porn became as deranged as it is today. And you're thinking that they're now learning that it's healthy to watch porn, and then when they're exposed to porn, they're watching something that just cannot be good for their neural pathways. Like it cannot be good for their brains to think that this is a normal sexual relationship. And for men, obviously, women are different biologically. We don't have the same instincts that men have when it comes to sex. And I think, are we allowed to say that? Men and women are different biologically?
No.
No, I did not mean that. We are the same.
We are exactly the same.
But it's rendering them weak. Yeah.
So different.
Yeah, it's rendering men very weak. Self-control, impulse, everything. And it's incredible when I talk about porn on my podcast, how many men respond and say, like, I've been struggling with this addiction for years.
Yes.
I want help. Men don't talk about this anymore. We're all struggling with this. Porn is everywhere. I open my Instagram.
Well, I've been struggling with that addiction, and I don't want help because it's fantastic.
Well, you can lead the charge.
Well, it's not unhealthy to like have a fantasy life with your porn girlfriends or your people in the magazines all those years. I mean, it releases tension. You don't always have a girlfriend.
Yeah, I would push back on that. I think that porn is really unhealthy for men, and I think
any porn.
I think, and I have noticed this, by the way, in speaking to like Dennis Prager, because he grew up with the magazines, that the understanding for what it is now.
Pervert.
Well, it's just very different.
You know what I find to be the sickest perversion of all, and married people admit to it. They admit that it's so boring to have sex that they freely think of other people when they're having sex.
Yeah.
I find that to be the worst perversion of all. You're basically masturbating inside another human being who you supposedly love more than anybody else while you're thinking about the checkout girl at Kroger.
An episode of Black Mirror.
What?
They were like, an episode of Black Mirror was talking about this, like in the potential for tech to meet that moment where people could be wearing goggles and also having and that could happen. That could
But essentially
happen.
you are wearing goggles, but it's inside your head.
Yeah.
I mean, I just don't get that thing of like, yeah, that's cool, we have sex, and I'm just thinking about anybody but her or him.
Why didn't you get married? That's very actually quite unusual.
That's why. I mean, that's the main reason. I cannot accept a life without hot sex.
Did you ever get close?
Yes.
Yeah. How many times?
Twice.
Twice.
Yeah.
And then cold feet on your part?
No, 3 times.
3 times.
Yes, I would say.
You got close.
Yeah, I got close. I mean, I was engaged when I was 29.
Okay.
But I kind of knew even as we were engaged and buying the ring and all that stuff, there was a voice in my back of my head always saying, really? You're just going to fuck this one person forever?
So it was about the sex?
Yeah, I told you.
Yeah. I think that does show that pornography and sex is something that is not a good thing.
You may be right.
Yeah.
You may be right.
It prevented you from unlocking this thing.
And you're right. That
Black
you
focus,
could be
whole
right.
other side of your life that's so beautiful, wonderful that you never get to. And so I think, and then now you times that by just porn everywhere. Porn when you are just literally walking down the street and you see an ad and you're like, oh, I don't know why she has to be naked to sell me this purse, but apparently she has to be naked.
I mean, it's also the case that, not take the sex out of the equation. I mean, is anyone really that interesting that you're the only person you want to spend this much time with? I mean, Annie Mame said
Many people. And I said outside of marriage too. I mean, I wish every day, actually today is my grandpa's death anniversary, that he's one person I could speak to every day. I would get rid of 6 friends to only be able to speak to my grandfather as my friend. Yeah, there are people that are that interesting.
Did he raise you?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And to be able to have those conversations with him, like there are people that are just that interesting.
Why didn't your parents raise you?
Well, we lived in my grandparents' house, but my grandfather was the patriarch of the home without question.
Wow.
So he, set the breakfast, he made us breakfast and read the Bible to us and really instilled the values, even though I did go a very liberal route to conservatism. I thought I was a liberal. I kind of went back to...
What were his politics?
He didn't have any. He was a conservative, but he was not politically inclined. conservative in terms of met my grandma when he was 17.
But like, what did you think of John F. Kennedy? He was probably a young
No.
man.
See, I wish he was still alive. So I could. I wish I was alive so I could talk about the moon.
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about it, yeah. But there are so many people, and especially now as people lack so much depth and so much character, and it's even for me, it's difficult to even find interesting friends. So I get what you're talking about. Do I want to talk to this person forever? No. But my grandfather, people that lived.
What would your grandfather have said about the people who say, like, racism has never been worse?
Yeah, it's funny you say that because I was kind of the first politically inclined person in my in my family, and it was interesting to kind of see how everyone reacted to it. And my grandfather, I cared very deeply about what my grandfather thought about me. Very deeply. I care very deeply about what my grandfather thinks about me. And he called me up one day, and I happened to have been invited to speak about the rise of white supremacy in front of Congress. I don't know if you've ever seen that clip of me.
Mm-hmm.
My granddad
I think I did, yeah.
My granddad was sitting behind me. And when I did my opening statement, I said that part of the reason that I'm so compelled to dispel this narrative is because my grandfather grew up with real racism. My grandfather had the real Klansman shooting inside of his home in Fayetteville, North Carolina, when he was a boy. And how insulting for me to harness what he lived through.
Right.
I haven't lived through a day of that in my life.
Right.
Because I want clicks and views and for people to feel bad for me. That should make people sick when they do that, when they pretend.
And that's all I'm ever asking.
And my granddad, what's so crazy about it, I wrote about this in my book, and why I'm the way I am today, is that when my grandfather would go into these stories about the Klansmen who hated his dad, and I think it was because his dad was, the kind of person that might whistle at a white girl, you know what I mean? But anyways, when they hated his father, he'd go back in the story and he'd say, we'd run to the back of the house, me and the kids. My grandpa was 1 of 12, and we'd run under the bed.
1 of 12.
1 of 12, yeah. And then
you're carrying on the tradition then.
Exactly. My granddad would say, and then my daddy would grab the shotgun and speak back at them and shoot back at them boys. Like, so powerful. Wow. Not this, like, oh my God, I look, this college is not accepted. It's like, black people have gotten weak. And it saddens me because we were funny, the concept for me of comedians, black people being able to turn pain into humor, funnier than everybody else, always from this position of strength. And I had so much pride in that growing up. I had pride in my grandfather, pride in Black America, and to see it all suddenly dissipate for me with the rise of the BLM narrative, this idea that, like, no matter what, whenever Bill Maher's thinking, he just sees me as, like, that's a horrible, toxic.
No.
I want to be able to make fun of you for your race. I want you to make fun of me. I want us to be able to talk stereotypes because they're real and they're funny.
And I've seen you, like, take people apart, like about black dorms.
Yeah.
Black only dorms. I saw you with the guy, I forget who it was. But, I mean, when you chop someone up, you do it like nobody's business. And again, when I'm agreeing with you, it's just such a pleasure to watch that. And that's all I'm ever asking and I've been, there are lots of idiot, like, commentators, like Bill Maher's I'm not a racist. I just want the truth.
Yeah.
Just don't lie to me.
But don't you miss being able to make fun of each other in, like, a feel-good way? Go watch the old stand-up comedians. They would walk in, they'd be on stage, and they would just literally, you could not survive. You were Chinese, you're getting a joke. You're black, you're getting a joke about and everyone is being offended, and everyone's laughing. And when they walk out, they're closer. Closer, because you need to have it taken.
You do.
You're not
now
that,
when you're walking on eggshells.
Yeah.
See, I can't make a joke because if it's taken the wrong way.
Got to issue an apology. If it's taken, it's like,
that way we don't get close.
Yeah, we never get closer. Get closer. And I still keep that in my friendships. I make fun of my friends I'm like, oh, well, it's because you're black, or that's because you're Spanish, oh, you're Jewish, and that is why we are so close, because we are able to. That is actually how people
and it's not
come
to say
together.
that racism still doesn't
never going to go away.
exist.
There's always going to be stupid people.
Like there will all be criminals.
Yes, exactly. The people are dumb. We get that.
Right. Exactly.
You're going to find these people.
Is it in a country that's now 39% non-white, and where most of the white people are not bigots anymore? They might not be as enlightened as you and your
Have you ever met a real racist? Like, that's what makes you laugh about. No, I'm serious, because everyone gets accused of racism. But have you ever met, like, a real, like, what always gets missed here is, if you ever met a real racist, you wouldn't take a racist seriously because they're so stupid. Like, it's like you can't. It's like brain never developed. Like, for example, the docuseries I'm doing right now.
Right. Tell me about it.
Convicting a Murderer, which is a 10-part docuseries we're working on right now. We've got the prison calls of this person that the media turned into a hero, Stephen Avery. Netflix did this whole bit, make you think he was innocent. And we went back and got the prison calls between Stephen Avery and his family. They should be listened to, right? They're dropping the N-word over and over. These people can barely put together a sentence, right? The idea that I would be offended by this prison call would actually lower my standards. You get what I'm saying? For me to be offended by this person who literally, they don't comprehend things. They're so stupid. They've, lived in this trailer park forever. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
That I'm like, am I supposed to be offended or shocked that this person is dropping the N-word over it? There's no black person that's going to watch this series and be like, well, there it is. Like, nobody's fearful of this racism. And by the way, ended up killing a white girl, because that's why I think people also miss it, that you're actually giving too much power. And that's why I love what my grandfather did. You give too much power to idiots.
And this is, see, to me, and we don't have to get into a big screaming match about it, but to me, there is if you ask me if Donald Trump's a racist, I would say, like just with any crime, there are gradations of it. Is he the worst kind? Absolutely not. It's a very kind of passive of his generation. Let me give you a little story about, like, when I was working at the Bergen Community College, my summer job. I was going to Ivy League school and stupidly making like $20 a day working basically as a janitor, an outdoor janitor at the local community college. So I had this boss, he was like, this was like a summer program. They hired a few college kids to give them a little money. So he was always smoking a non-filter cigarette. And one time we were on the truck going somewhere to clean some shit up, and he saw a bunch of little black kids. And he says, yeah, they're cute now, but they grow up to be the word I can't say.
Right.
To me, and I remember thinking, I was 19 years old, wow, you asshole racist. To me, that is a racist.
It's a race. It's a totally racist thing.
So that guy does exist in the world.
Yeah.
Now, that was 1974.
Right.
He exists less.
100%.
Because he died.
Yeah.
Not all of them.
That's the point.
Not all of them.
Yeah, when you hear Stephen Avery's parents, they're dead now.
Right.
Right, but it's like, yeah, I would suspect that where they grew up.
So, I mean, we have polling on this. Like, the amount of white people in 1974 who thought that they would like to live in a diverse community was like 90 points different than it is now.
Yeah.
Like, most Americans want to live in a diverse community. That's a huge sea change. These are facts.
Yeah. I actually have a question for you, because I'm kind of miffed by this, and I cover it a lot on my show. The self-hating white person is like, as observing this as a black person, right? This is something that black people could never get behind, right? You're not going to get black people to like just lash themselves in public, and you know what I mean? Like, we're going to be like, we look at this and we're a little bit like, you guys are a little weird. Like, at least we're like saying we're amazing, and you guys are awful. Like, you guys are.
And if I can, I'll pop my collar and I'll shine.
The self-flagellation.
I've done
makes
two.
Me uncomfortable.
I've done 2 editorials on this because it's such great fodder for comedy. I did one. I wish
sorry for being white. Like, you could never see a black person say, like, I'm sorry for being black. I just don't think that's a thing.
I did one. I wish I could remember the exact words because I wrote it. It was this part. It was so funny about, if it's that bad, let's have a honky tax. Let's tax Caucasianness. Right? If it's that toxic, we have to put a tax on it. Yeah. And it was like, wrote a whole thing. Wow, it will be indexed to the blah, blah, blah.
It's weird. And it's a lot here in LA.
It is weird.
It's just weird. It makes me uncomfortable. I don't want to watch people hurt themselves.
And also, it puts an imposition on black people. They're asking black people to forgive them or to signal that, I know you're an ally.
Yeah,
I know you're one of the good.
I'm like, oh my God, please,
I hate it
please don't talk to me. Yeah, I'm like, every time they do
gross.
it makes my skin crawl.
It's cringe.
Because I know you don't mean this.
Of course not.
And I don't know why. And it makes me feel like you're like
Candace,
watching.
Black Panther was very meaningful to me.
And I wanted you to know that I see your experience, and I hate myself, for being born this way. And I see this stuff, and I'm like, how did you get so brainwashed to apologize for something that was completely out of your control?
I could
never apologize.
I had the same feelings about Black Panther as I do about every superhero movie.
What do you think?
Stupid. I mean, it's just not my kind of movie. But I mean, I feel the same about
You're not allowed. Yeah.
Spider-Man.
Yeah.
You know, but no, but yeah, that cringy. Like I have to get you to forgive me for
Makes me
my
uncomfortable.
toxicness. That
Yeah.
like I didn't do it.
Like the white privilege posts made me super uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't understand how media has conditioned you to hate yourself, because I could never be conditioned to hate myself. Like I just could never imagine apologizing for being black.
Why should you? Or white.
Bonkers.
Or white.
Yeah, it's weird.
I mean, you know what white liberals don't understand about black folks? They don't understand that, it's funny, we were going to call my show Keeping It Real, but, you know, of course, that would have not aged well. But at the time, and I remember the network was like, too black.
Too black.
Too black. But, like, what they don't understand is that that's what, in my experience, I'll just say this, in my experience, what black folks love is not, I'm your ally. They love keeping it real.
Yeah. Well,
Keeping it real.
My dad loves you. Absolutely loves you. Yeah.
I love that.
Like my entire, like my aunts, all of them, they absolutely love you. And they always say that. It's like he's just like real, you know, like he just says it. And it's like, why are you patronizing us? Why are you patting us on the head like we're puppies that need rescuing?
Right.
It makes me uncomfortable.
Demeaning.
You look pathetic.
Right.
You know, I don't want to see someone grovel in front. Again, going back to your reference of like the 5-year-old kid and everyone. It's just weird.
Yes.
It's just everything everything about this makes me uncomfortable. So please stop doing it.
Right.
Like we all know this is meaningless. So let's stop pretending this is like real feelings that you have and not like.
You know, I ask all my black friends and black girlfriends that I've had, and, you know, and very often like then they're ex-girlfriends, but we're still close, you know? I mean, I make friends first.
Yeah.
It has to be based on, okay, so I ask them these questions. I'm like, I get it that when people say, how could you know you're white? Well, I'm also sentient. Okay, so maybe I can't know as good as you, but I can see shit.
Yeah.
I can see the commercials are different.
Yeah, I mean, they try so hard now.
And also, when I'm on the road, it's always, I'm consciously aware, like when I'm in the diner in Charlotte, North Carolina, I'm like, I want to see because I see black folks, white folks, it's the South. Some are working there, they're working with each other, some are customers. I just don't see anyone scowling.
No.
Or like, I just don't, like, this is my eyes. Maybe I'm missing it. Maybe they're all fantastic Academy Award winning actors who are pretending that they're just living their best lives. But it looks like everyone is getting along great.
Pretty okay. Pretty okay. And that's exactly
no one
my
is like looking at black folks like,
what are you doing here? Like
or
they open the door and everyone just gets quiet and freezes. You know, that's how the last 5 years they've been trying to convince us that's the America we live in. I'm like, that's just not the America we live in. I'm sorry.
Unless they're playing a prank on me, where
maybe.
everyone is so on the page.
Driving me crazy.
And it's so
It's
hard.
just toxic. It's a toxic media narrative.
It's
to
so
see
hard.
race and circumstances that sometimes it's just something shitty happened. There's no one got called an N-word. It's like there happened to be a black person and a white person in a situation, and they racialize it. Like this happened because of. And I'm like, dude, have you never been cut off by a person of a different color?
The chair dude.
Chair dude.
There was a thing on the dock.
Oh yeah, there was not one racial element of it.
Well, we don't know.
We don't know.
It was okay. Here's what happened. If people don't know, somebody was docking, and there was a guy on the dock, and for some reason they had a disagreement about whose life was going to be worse affected by the boat docking.
Yeah.
So the guy like jumps off the boat. I guess white guy.
The white guy hits the black guy.
Hits the black guy.
Which could just be a normal bar fight.
But like, you think no two white guys ever had a fight on a dock?
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. It's like what component of this spoke to you?
It could be. I'm gonna punch that black guy who's stopping.
Right.
That could be, and it just could be.
It also could not be.
It also
no
could not
evidence
be.
for it.
Now, once the fight started, of course, all the black people came running and swimming from everywhere.
That was amazing. The swimming guy was amazing. He does deserve some sort of an award.
To jump in the fight.
He's like, who said black people can't swim? Jumps in the water, gets over there, gets on there, and it turns into this. And of course, the interpretation, everybody it's like, I'm looking online, they're making this black versus white. I'm like, have you ever been to a bar and just seen people fight, whether it's two white guys, two black guys? And for some reason now, it's like black people and white people cannot have any sort of bad falling out of anything about it being like, it's because of race. And it's like, no, it's because we're humans. and humans have controversy and humans fight, and you don't need to
Right.
pull a race narrative out of this. You can just be like, these were two idiots.
No,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
This drunk idiot
it
hit
all-
this guy.
It's
This guy swam in the water. These are just human beings.
Right.
Everybody is
Yes.
a human being. And
no,
until I
no.
hear-
Once it was a black guy and a white guy fighting, it did become racial. But
Yeah.
that just more shows where we've gone in
Yeah,
this.
I know.
That it had to be. Now maybe that always would have happened. I can see that. We have a long way to go. But
We didn't have this long way to go, and now it seems like we do have a long way to go. But something's cracking. So I think just even us having the conversation and talking about how we miss when people used to just be able to make fun of each other. It's the best stand-ups of all time. Like, and I obviously I'm talking about '90s stand-up, but like, I mean, you know, Chris Rock,
Pryor.
Bigger and Blacker.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, there's just so many that I just loved growing up,
have
and they
to-
just went there. You know.
Speaking of fights and jokes that you can't do anymore, the Wayans brothers.
They were so offensive.
So funny.
Yeah.
Like,
That whole movie called
don't
White
be a
Chicks.
menace. How funny is that movie?
I haven't seen that one.
Oh, you have.
Don't be a
You're in
menace.
for such a treat.
No, I have never seen it.
Okay, so like they put out a book called, again, a book I couldn't even think about doing, but I don't know if you could do it today as a black person, 150 ways to know your ghetto.
Okay.
Okay,
Yeah.
right away, this is like
You could never do it now.
You could never do it.
And that's hilarious.
And it's hilarious.
It's hilarious.
And one of them was, you join fights that don't involve you.
That's objectively hilarious and true. You just
And of
see a
course,
fight going on.
Every one of these things where you know your ghetto
Yeah.
also applies to redneck.
Yeah. Oh, I have this theory that rednecks and people in the hood are the same people. Now that I live
They are
in
the
the
same
they're the same
people.
people. There's like
Yeah.
a beautiful marriage just waiting to happen. I'm like, guys, what's so funny is the media has made you think that you're so different.
Oh.
You're exactly the
Exactly
same.
the
Except
same.
rednecks might be a little more ghetto, I've learned, actually.
A little bit.
A little bit more ghetto. But I'm telling you, that's a
But
whole
like-
thing that I've realized now living in the South. I'm like,
Like a musician once told me this, that it was either a rapper or I think it was a rapper who said, you know, the country stars, like a lot of their whole world is so like exactly like ours. Like, you know, your cousin is your tour manager.
it's,
You know,
it
shit
is.
like that.
Yeah.
And I think it's true.
It's 100% true, and I say it all the time now that I live in Tennessee. I'm like, rednecks and people in the hood are the exact same people, and the media has them tripped up thinking that they're
so-
polar opposites, and they're exactly the same.
Listen to this one. So, you know who Rudy Jobert is?
No.
He's a basketball player, a very good one. You may have seen him on the news when he did something very unfortunate.
Did he want to punch Britney Spears?
No,
Okay.
no. When COVID first hit, like he had it, I think, and he was mocking it. We weren't like that afraid of it yet, and he pretended to put it on all the mics of the people who were interviewing.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, right. I mean, you could lose everything for that.
Right.
He's a sweet guy anyway. I guess he's French, black. So he played in Utah for years for the Jazz. He just got traded, and there was a New York Times article, and the headline was something like, you know, interview. It's a interview. Rudy Jobert on, you know, the playoffs and, you know, the NBA and racism in Utah. And I thought, okay, here it comes. Because Utah, very white, of course. And they get to the question, Rudy, what about the racism in Utah? And Rudy goes, oh no, everybody was awesome there. Everyone was always great to me and my family. And you could almost feel the New York Times reporter being disappointed.
Yeah.
What? You didn't find racism? That's terrible. I mean, great.
Wonderful. Are you sure?
I mean, great. That's
you sure?
great. You know,
Yeah.
that's the kind of shit that makes me see red, because it's just, just don't be a phony. As long as you're honest with me, I'm always with you.
I
And the
totally
second
agree.
you try to bullshit me, or you have this narrative before you even start, the Vanity Fair article on you.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, congratulations for getting into Vanity Fair. That's not an easy thing to do.
Thank you.
You know, that's, I remember they did me in 1997.
Did they? Were they nice to you?
They were never nice to me. The press. I mean, they were not. I don't think they were terrible. No, I think Vanity Fair was fine, and Graydon Carter is a friend, and I think it was fine. I don't remember, but in general, the print media have always been assholes. I have a theory, but I'm not going to share it. But the Vanity Fair piece, I thought, was everything that makes me hate that kind of lefty. First of all, it was so condescending the way it was kind of like what we were talking about before. They kind of were like presenting you as someone who must be faking it just for publicity.
Yeah.
Because who could ever believe? Well, people think differently than you. Jesus fucking Christ. Maybe they just think differently, you know. But they exposed themselves. It like never entered their mind. Maybe she could be right about some things.
Right.
You know, I mean,
like maybe she authentically actually believes.
And
she actually
give her
asked
that
the
much
question.
credit.
Yeah, and I just thought to myself, if I was going to fake it, the easier thing would have been to be faking a BLM crazy liberal. I would have crushed it. I would have had. Do you know how much money I would have made if I leaned into a liberal leftist? They would have had me on every media. I would have been on the cover. I would have been Time's most influential person. I would have been AOC.
You could be hosting the nightly news.
So how much money would I be making right now if I had just gone left? That's why I was like challenging them. Like if I really was about the money, this is the route I would have gone.
It is not easy being a black conservative.
It's horrible.
It's horrible.
It's horrible because they're constantly telling you that it can't be real. Okay, so even my marriage is a sham. I even married someone who's conservative.
And also, like when they do polling, the majority of black people are not liberal.
No.
They're moderate and more conservative than whites.
On certain issues, especially like LGBTQ stuff.
Yes.
Black people are far right.
Far right. Yes.
Have been for a very long time.
Yes.
So you like the trans stuff is not selling in the black community and things of that nature. Black men are definitely leaning much more conservative these days, which makes sense because of the way they were going back to me saying like I was raised conservatively actually, and then kind of something happens in public school where you kind of learn that you kind of have to be a liberal. And then I was liberal. I would describe myself as liberal. I wasn't voting Democrat or anything, but I was very liberal in college. Very like everything, feminism. We need feminism.
What years are we talking about?
I graduated high school in 2007, so 2007, 2011.
So the beginning of Obama, you were a liberal.
I cried when Obama won.
Well, so should a conservative. So should a conservative.
Who didn't? Yeah, exactly. So it's interesting. And so then people use that against me. And we're like, well, that shows that you're doing, and when they say they're doing this for the money, I'm like, you're an effing idiot. If I was doing this for the money, I would be the best BLM activist there ever was.
Let me ask you this about Obama. So I read, Andrew Sullivan wrote a piece recently where he said, who I love, by the way. Did you read Andrew Sullivan?
No.
Really?
I don't read Andrew Sullivan.
Why? He's so great.
Do you want me to? I'll start.
You'd love him.
Yeah?
You'd love it.
Okay.
You would love it. And he's such a brilliant writer. It's such a pleasure to read his prose. Anyway, he was like, I think it was called Where Is That Obama? And he was talking about how like Tim Scott running as a Republican in 2023 sounds more like Obama when he was running than Obama sounds like Obama today.
It's incredible to look back at the things that he said when they tried to race bait him. He ran an incredible campaign that was based on unity.
Exactly.
And then he just went the other way and was telling us America was racist.
Without disowning his black side at all.
Yeah.
But also, like, just being commonsensical and realistic and not pandering to the side that says race is everything.
And then he changed.
Race is our original sin, and it will always be an important issue in America, and it will always need redressing. But it's not like, first of all, we haven't attempted a lot of redressing. You know, I mean...
We're fracturing people now. Now we just need to stop talking about it. I agree with Morgan Freeman, and it's, you know, he's like, do you want to get over racism? Stop talking about it. Stop constantly making everything about race.
No, and there are a lot of conservative black voices. There really are.
Denzel Washington
is
really conservative.
Yes, and John McWhorter. I wouldn't even call it conservative always. I mean, you are, but I don't think John McWhorter is. But the things you say about race are the same things he says about race.
Yeah.
And I would count him like me, an old school liberal. We're like the same age. That's
why my dad
jam.
loves you. You know what I mean? Because I think it's the old school liberals. We can sit down with conservatives. There's, you know, we can parse. We can talk about all different topics, and
in the New York,
it's nice.
In the New York Times, they let John McWhorter write. He is now a New York Times columnist. But it never really gets to that stuff. You know, it's a lot about language, and I love John. I'll read him writing about anything. But it's a lot about stuff that kind of skirts what I know is in his book, the religion of anti-racism, calling it a religion, you know, and going after all the stuff, the same stuff you go after. Just the stuff that doesn't make sense, not denying racism still exists, but, and...
it's always going to exist.
in the New York Times, you just are not allowed to. I mean, that's why Barry Weiss left.
Yeah, and she did the right thing.
She did, and
It's really brave.
Yeah, it's so great, and I love what she's doing now.
It's great.
She's killing it, and there is a thirst, as she thought there was, for people who want to see stuff that is not catering to either side.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying to you. I think even for me, there's just been this general fatigue that has set in, and I'm focused much more on cultural issues.
Because of the baby?
Well, I think part of it, yeah. I think becoming a mom has definitely made me hone in on certain topics a lot more. And I don't care who's saying the thing that I think is right. Like on my show, I share, RFK Jr. And he says stuff that I think is really brilliant.
He sat right there.
Yeah, and I would love to have him on my show. And people are so offended, but
he
people
won't do
have
your
gotten
show?
so tribal. I tried to get him. The reason why he wouldn't do it was because there was some like YouTube stuff going on at the time. I think he would come on my show. We talk a lot about
put
vaccines.
in a good word.
Yeah, we talk a lot about vaccines,
talk.
and he's the reason why I chose not to vaccinate my children, which is funny because he's super left, and obviously I would never vote for RFK Jr., but I want to platform him because it shouldn't really be so tribal that just because you wouldn't vote for someone based on this policy or what they believe in, that you won't listen to them about things that are really rational. That could actually bring us all a little closer. And I think what he has done in terms of the sacrifices he has made in his life to make parents more aware of the encroaching medical system, he completely woke my eyes up to it, and he is fascinating.
No, when he sat here, that is the theme that I was trying to encourage him to use in his campaign, that his ideas about COVID and vaccines, not that I agree with everything, I don't think they put chips in the vaccines.
I don't think that either, because he doesn't think that either.
I think he did say that at the beginning.
Okay, I didn't hear that. I want to be clear. I don't believe in that. I don't believe in chips.
I think we've established tonight we've all got our own.
We've all got our things.
We all got our own things.
He responded to my tweet and said that. He would have said chips in the vaccines, and I would have been like, that's an interesting one.
Chips on the moon.
Yeah.
Anyway, so okay. What were we talking about?
Yeah, how you had him on the show and you felt that you wanted to hear.
So I wanted for him to make a theme of his campaign connecting his past work as someone who was always exposing corporate America and health problems that everyone was applauding because it's environmental stuff. It's the river. We want to save the river. Yes, I agree. We should applaud that. The thing with vaccine and stuff is a continuation of that, not a departure. It's not like, oh, he went nuts. No, this guy was always concerned about what keeps us healthy, what robs us of our health, and a lot of it is environmental. He's not wrong.
He's very right.
About that connection. I don't go with him everywhere he goes. I feel like he needs to vet certain things a little more thoroughly. But you know what? Generally, if I had to choose his page or the conventional FDC, Western medicine page, I'd go with him.
I go with him entirely. He shaped a lot of my opinions on that, and I think it's sad that when I talk about that, like if I talk about my platform, people have so pigeonholed me as a Trump supporter that, I mean, it's crazy. When I had Vivek on, I got attacked by a group of conservatives. When I say that I'd love to speak to RFK, he was a big part of my birthing, of me being aware of what I was putting into my children's body. People have become so tribal that depending on who says it, like if someone says, watch out, you're going to get hit by a bus, they'll be like, I'm not listening to that because RFK Jr. said it. And I don't want to be that person. I want to watch out and not get hit by the bus.
Right.
So I'm hoping that people are starting to understand that, and that's why I said I've gotten less into politics and more into culture, because the more you get into politics, you realize that people are tribal to a point of stupidity. To a point of stupidity.
But you can't separate. Politics is culture, and vice versa.
I've been doing it. People are like, why aren't you, saying that you're supporting this? I'm like, because you know what? I'm telling you what I find interesting about each candidate.
Yeah, I don't do that.
Vivek is interesting because of this. You should listen to him. Right. Here is I had a Trump supporter debate Vivek, and Vivek performed really well. Because he looks like a person that would perform really well in an academic debate, and bringing that sort of a conversation to people in general, I think is good. And I think RFK is super interesting. And I get called names all the time. I piss off people, I disagree with a lot of people on certain issues. I think sometimes the right gets too conspiratorial, which is ironic given how we started this. But I did my whole segment last week on talking about, when all you see is George Soros and the World Economic Forum on every person that's new, you may have had your brain rotted. You know what I mean? Like, not every single person can be controlled by George Soros, right? And there are the 6 degrees of separation. I can probably attach each and every one of you to George Soros, right? because they were angry that Vivek took a college scholarship. And I'm like, I probably applied for George Soros scholarships because I was poor and I had no money, and I applied for literally every scholarship that my guidance counselor brought to me. If you see a conspiracy in people taking money out for college when it costs $150,000 a year to go to school, like, you know what I mean? Your brain has just been rotted and you're probably not good to be in the political realm. And so I kind of did that episode talking about, you know, because they had a photo of me where I was sitting like this, and they said I was in the Illuminati. It's just like, what do you ever seen Talladega Nights? I don't know. Well, I don't know where I put my hands sometimes. I don't know where our hands have been throughout this. They'll find us still.
You should take that as a compliment.
I'm like, listen, you guys are all pissing me off enough. If the Illuminati calls, I'm going. You know?
I'm sure I've kept you longer than I should have, but you got me going.
That was fun. That was actually
I
very
love
fun.
to laugh.
Me too. And that's why it's sad that people are
trying to think,
throats.
even after all these years of making a living doing it, I was just thinking for the first time the other day, like, why is laughter? Like, why do we love it and crave it so much? Whatever it is, it must literally tickle something in us.
It brings you together.
But I love to laugh like that. It's therapeutic, like a real muscle laugh.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Good
much
luck
for having me.
with the third of what I'm sure will be
Permanently pregnant, married Catholic man.
just the beginning.
Well.